What is going on, guys? Welcome to another video, and today is the second episode in a short series walking you guys through why I believe that men over the age of 30 need to train slightly differently. A couple of minor little tweaks to your training program will keep you strong, powerful, big, mobile, flexible, sexy AF, and most importantly, free from injury and able to kind of access the joy of life. In the previous video, we focused on how to apply these secret mythical principles to an upper body session. Today, we are applying it to a lower body session. The upper body session a couple of days ago was a little bit more vlog style. That's because I was actually filming in the gym. This time, slightly different setup. The music was a lot louder. I'd get smashed with copyright claims. So I thought I'd do the main kind of commentary style thing, piece to camera, with the actual training footage taken separately. How we can benefit from training slightly differently and the tweaks that we can make if we are men over the age of 30, guys, getting straight into it. The first one, very consistent and congruent with most of like the power, dynamic, ballistic style stuff that I advocate generally. And that is to incorporate a nice dynamic warm up for your lower body sessions. After some static and active range of motion stuff, some innovation drills, some dynamic lunges, some nice active ROM hamstring work, and some snappy high knees, as you're seeing here, are linchpins to my warm up, regardless of what kind of lower body session I'm going to do. But onto the meaty stuff, the stuff you've all come here to see in regards to the actual lifting portion of a session. The main compound lift of the day. For upper body a couple of days ago, we were doing some incline bench. Today we are going to do a safety squat bar box squat. I am quite outspoken at the best of times about the fact that I don't believe that kind of conventional barbell back squats they're definitely not necessary. Sometimes they're actually damaging. They do a lot more harm than good, depending on your kind of anthropometrics, so depending on how you're built. They can be an amazing exercise. For me, quite a short torso, long femurs, anterior pelvic tilt, they do not agree with me, but box squats seem to be okay. And the fact that this lovely gym, Flow Fitness in Seattle, had a safety bar, I was going to take advantage of that. What do we need to do when we're over the age of 30? Well, to make sure that our connective tissues and our muscle tissues stay nice and strong and stable, and to make sure that we kind of neurally are still in control of them, lengthening that eccentric portion, so basically controlling the downward portion of the lift onto the box, and then a very slight pause on here to make sure that we're not bouncing off, is my first hack of the day. Nice controlled eccentric. You don't have to pause for too long, just enough to take that bounce out. You can either rebreathe or you can kind of hold your breath down on there, but to make sure that there's enough of a pause on the box or the bench here to ensure that you're not just bouncing off and using it as a bit of a flipping slingshot trampoline is a great way to develop the control and the stability that is absolutely going to benefit you as we get into our 30s, 40s, 50s and up. Your tissues and your joints will thank you if you start to implement this particular kind of hack into a lot of your lifting sessions, especially when it's the main compound lift, which means usually the reps are going to be lower because it's a little bit more of a strength focus, and the amount of weight on the bar is higher because we're going for a strength stimulus. That's when if we're doing something wrong, it's going to cause more damage, and if we do something right, it's going to mitigate that and it's going to keep us nice and safe. So I did barbell box squats here for a set of 5 or 6, 2 minutes between. I don't require that much rest. I've kind of got my body to adapt to a slightly quicker recovery because I like the slightly more metabolic effect that I get from that lower rest period. 3 sets through, and then that is the main compound lift done and in the back. So nice dynamic warm up, because even though we're in our 30s and up, we want to make sure that we're nice and athletic. The second hack is to control the eccentric portion of the lift and to definitely implement some pauses in there for the main compound movement of the day. And onto the third hack now, what I want to make sure that we do after the strength set, as we move into a little bit more of kind of like the functional bodybuilding, metabolic hypertrophy part, is to balance out the anterior chain with the posterior chain. That is to say, when you're kind of going up in reps, so we've done the main strength bit, we're moving on to a little bit of a superset, which is kind of part and parcel of upper body or lower body sections anyway. To do within that superset, a primarily kind of anterior chain exercise, so a primarily quad-based exercise with a primarily hamstring and glute exercise. The exercises that I chose, I am super flipping weird in that I actually like Bulgarian split squats. I said in a video recently, I had loads of knee problems. I'm 34 now. I had loads of knee problems about 3, 4, 5 years ago, and Bulgarian split squats and sled pushes were the only real lower body exercises I could do without aggravating my patella tendon. So I just did loads of them and kind of strangely became quite a fan because I grooved the movement pattern well enough that balance, luckily, became not really much of an issue. But I like to make sure, and here's kind of an extra little bonus hack, if your main lift of the day is only partial range, make sure that when you do your next superset, you're ensuring that you're working at full range. As we get older, we tend to become a little bit more kind of concrete and stiff anyway. So I actually did a front foot elevated Bulgarian split squat. So I'm lifting that front foot off the ground slightly just by the fact that I'm putting it on a weight plate. And what that's doing is it's just allowing a little bit more of an acute range on the ankle, knee and hip on that front leg. Between 8 and 12 reps each side for this, guys, and then moving on, basically supersetting it with, as I said earlier, a primarily posterior chain exercise. I usually go for hip extension, but I thought the fact they had a really good GHD here, I was basically just gonna work on some knee flexion stuff, so some like isolated hamstring work and do some GHD hammy curls. Obviously nowhere near as spicy as a full Nordic if you're doing that on the floor. And Ben Semtek Simons that I was with on the day basically gave me the little tip of having my kneecaps actually slightly below the pad as opposed to on it, and I can assure you this makes it a lot easier. If you didn't know this, compared to your quads, your hamstrings are incredibly susceptible to a hypertrophic effect, meaning that you might only need to do about 6 to 10 reps to elicit a really good kind of muscle building effect. Whereas with your quads, you might only be hitting that effect at about 12. The fact that I'm only doing between 6 and 8 GHD hammy curls, improving strength, improving the quality of my tendons and ligaments around the joints, and packing a bit of lean muscle mass on there as well. So that is hack number 3, guys, making sure that after the main exercise, the main kind of lift of the day, we go into a superset, one exercise being anterior chain focused, one exercise being posterior chain focused, with the extra little bonus hack of making sure that we're working the joints at full range if the main lift was at partial range. And the 4th and final hack, guys, for men over the age of 30 that want to stay nice and strong and lean and powerful and quick and have a decent kind of performance, health and physique balance when they are over the age of 30, applying those guidelines onto a lower body session is to finish off with a little bit of a burner set. Again, just to get a massive amount of kind of tissue perfusion, so blood flow to the lower body. The perfect flipping balance I think you can do is literally just to do some body weight jump lunges you're seeing here. There's a little bit of impact, which is kind of good if you land properly, but not enough to do damage because we're landing with both feet at the same time. Requires a bit of speed because we physically need to execute it with power or we won't leave the floor. That's the great things about jumps and throws, guys, right? But if you slow it down enough, if you're throwing a ball, the ball literally just kind of flops to the ground. And if you jump too slowly, you don't leave the floor. So the fact that your brain knows this with jump lunges, operative word being jump, there's a minimum level of activation required to make sure that it effectively is a nice little kind of snappy bodyweight plyometric. So a set of however many of these you want. If you can do 30 or more, I advise you start adding weight, either in the form of holding a weight plate, or I kind of like to use my arms with it, so kind of adding a weight vest is a good benefit as well. And supersetting this primarily with one of the movement patterns for lower body that you haven't hit yet. And the only one I haven't really hit, because I've done a main compound, I've done some unilateral work that's anterior focused, I've done some knee flexion, and I haven't done any isolated hip extension work. So I'm going to superset my jump lunges with some kettlebell swings. Either just the kettlebell on its own or banded. Between 20 and 30 is great for this. I personally would take absolutely no break, and I would just go back through this 3 times, guys. Between 20 and 30 jump lunges, between 20 and 30 kettlebell swings 3 times through. And that is the finisher, the burner set done. So we've got a nice dynamic warm up, we've got a main compound exercise, we've got an anterior chain, posterior chain superset, and then we've got a little burner set. Even though there's almost like only 3 components to the main part of the session here, if you think that is not enough volume, you are not working intensely enough. Trust me, that is a flipping spicy workout if you attack it properly. And there we have it, guys. Men over the age of 30, there are a couple of tiny little tweaks and kind of training methodologies that will just keep us nice and healthy and fit and strong and powerful and muscular when we apply them properly. And this is what those guidelines look like when applied over the top of a lower body session. Slightly snappier video than the upper body one, guys, but again, it's kind of communicated in a different format. Hope you did enjoy. We have one more session in this kind of short series for men over the age of 30, and that is applied through the lens of a conditioning workout, which you'll see in the next video. So if you did enjoy today, please do smash that like button. If you have not yet done so, please do subscribe. And as always, beautiful people, stay strong, stay healthy, stay awesome, and I will see you soon.